Hello, my friends. Welcome once again to Spiritism, a closer look through via Kardec Radio. This is Wednesday, 7 p.m., so it's time for Spiritism, a closer look. Luiz Lima here, broadcasting from Orlando, and tonight we are going to take a closer look at premature death. Premature death. It's not something that anybody likes, of course not. But it just happens. It happens to a lot of us. When this kind of ties into another very hot topic in spiritism, which is the loss of loved ones. So that would be intersect with that as well. Premature death, they could be accidental, intentional, regardless. Those left behind, the loved ones who are left behind, they suffer. They they have to be really strong to get going. It's not an easy thing. So, how does Spiritism explain premature death? How can we understand that under the Spiritist work framework? I'm sorry. Well, Spiritism gives us some ideas, some possibilities. Of course, we cannot know for sure in every single case what happened there, and we will never be able to do this. But we have some great insight from Spiritism on this. So let's consider a few possibilities, and we're going to talk about each one of them. So, number one, it could be a trial or an expiation for the parents, or at least one of them. Young children, as everybody, by the way, live here, which is a world of trials and expiations. So uh, we know we are going to have to face situations and circumstances that we might not like, but that's part of learning. So this thing, the death of a young children, or a young child, it could be a trial. Think about this: to reach perfection, which is the purpose for everybody. That's the goal: to be reach perfection, to be perfect. To get to that point, we must have had all the experiences, all the possible experiences. We must have experienced everything, including losing loved ones and including also losing someone to an early death, per se. That's an experience. And because perfection calls for having all of the experiences possible, this is one of them. So it is part of the process. Sooner or later, we will have to face something like this. On this lifetime, maybe we already did, some of us. Maybe it's coming on future lives. But one thing is sure, we will have, or we did, experience this. It's a trial. It could also be an expiation. You see, the parents might have to be led to connect to the spiritual side of life. Some parents, some people in general, but that includes some of the parents, they live this very material life. Uh, they they go by the book under the materialistic paradigm, and they just abandon or forget or don't give any importance to spiritual life. So a situation like this will make them think. You will catch their attention to this. Losing young children, or you know what we call premature death, it makes us think. It puts a lot of questions on our minds, and that's an opportunity that we are given to reflect upon things that we haven't been, or maybe we did, but we didn't get to understand completely. We need more. We need more a more mature thought on the subject. So for the parents, it could this the premature death of young children. for example, it could be the onset of their spiritual transformation, which includes acceptance, resignation, humility. It's just one of the ways to set them on the avenue of spiritual maturity, because we all have to have it if we are all going to be perfect. So sooner or later, we have to face it. So, in a way, it might sound a little strange, but in a way, the occurrence of a premature death could be regarded as a necessary evil. Can be regarded as a necessary evil. Evil is something bad, necessary. It's because, in a way, it's going to help us. We might not like it, but no, it's a learning. It's part of the learning process. Parents then would have to assimilate the experience of the situation as part of being, as part of the process, like stepping stones, we could say. So they have to assimilate it, and it has to sink in. Nobody's saying it's easy and quick. No, please. But it's an experience that has to be, you know, assimilated, understood, analyzed. You will Time will heal. It's a popular saying, because it needs to sink in, and it will. It will. So parents are led to kind of look inwards, to work on their own problems and difficulties, and to revise their concepts, and they have to answer, they have themselves to answer their own questions, something like, what is important to me, what is not important, what is urgent, what is not urgent. So that kind of questioning is the Spiritist philosophy. That kind of question might be all triggered because of such an event or events like that. So the pain and suffering become these, I would say, wake up calls, maybe wake up calls. And these wake up calls, they kind of push the spirit in the direction of acquiring moral and spiritual values. It's a little push. It helps. Might seem strange, but it does. So premature death can sensitize the hearts, the stony hearts sometimes, of those who need to step up to a higher moral standard. And this is one of the ways to make it happen faster, because it is extremely painful. There's a lot of suffering for quite some time. Depends on the person, depends on the parent who lost the child, for example. It could be less time or more time, but there is pain and there is suffering. And we need to use, when that happens to us, we need to use that in our own favor. Spirit Lacordaire says we need to learn how to suffer well. Suffer because of the things that we did in the past, our wrongdoings. There's going to be suffering. There's going to be pain. So let's make the best out of it instead of rebelling. Let's just understand what's happening. And in order to understand, we need to have knowledge. That's what Spiritism brings to us, clear knowledge of how to handle the situation. We need help from people around, from maybe other family members, friends, people that we put our trust on. But that's a process. So all of this that we spoke so far could be because it's a trial and or an expiation for the parents, at least one of them. But there's another thing that we can consider that would be, let's say, number two, which is it could be the premature death. Okay, it could be a trial or an expiation for the child. Number one is for the parents that we spoke about. Number two is for the child. The child is a spirit. So he has a past, he has a spiritual history with a bunch of wrongdoings, just like you and I. So the wrongdoings of all these past lives for this incarnate spirit will now have to go over, the spirit will now have to go over situations, circumstances, possibilities to offset those wrongdoings. And a short or very short incarnation could be the offset. Could be that living, let's just say, for, the child is born and lives for 1 year, and discarnates. There's learning in there for that child if that's the case. So that 1 year is offsetting something in the past that we don't know. Each case is different. But you see, it's an opportunity that the Spirit is given by the mercy of God. You should take that opportunity and make the best out of it. So if I have to go through this now, same for the parents. If we are going through this now, let's go through this, but let me think of what I'm going to do from now on, because I don't want to feel this again. I don't want to go through this thing again because it's horrible. It's awful. So for the child, the premature death might be, depends on the case, it might be the appropriate or the adequate way to resolve those wrongdoings of past lives. So we saw two possibilities so far. Could be a trial and expiation for the parents, at least one of them. It could be a trial or an expiation for the child. Let's bring up a third line of thought here. It could be a mission that the child took. When preparing for a new life, for the next incarnation, the child decided that it's going to be here for a mission, especially if the child is a very morally advanced spirit. So we say, well, I'm going to go down because I'm on a mission. And the mission, what is the mission? I want to help parents undergo their share of trials and expiations with me. If the parents have to go through the premature death of a child, there's got to be a child in the equation. Who wants to be the child? Good spirits will do that. They will incarnate on a mission. By the way, they are volunteering for a noble mission. So they will come into this life with the goal of dying young or very young, so the parents can benefit from the experience. Benefit meaning what we explained, a few minutes ago. It's part of the learning process. So the child, this spirit that comes on a mission and dies at a young age, is nothing more than an instrument for the parents' expiations. It's on a mission. It's a volunteer on a noble mission. That would be a third possibility. We also have a fourth possibility. We have many, so we're going to talk about two more. Think about miscarriage or stillbirth. It could be we have flavors when we talk about miscarriage. Number one, it could be something at the physical level. Spirit Andre Luis and also Spirit Manual, they refer to the imperfections of the material organs that could make something go wrong and the child dies. For example, inside the womb, and that's what miscarriage is. Now, it could also be something different. The spirit, the incarnating spirit, which is already in charge of developing, the fetus, the embryo, and so, because it already has its fluidic tie attached to the matter, so the spirit might just simply give up, back out, and walk away from the journey. Why would a spirit do this? How can we tell? We don't know, but it's possible. Yes, it is. Here's an example. It just occurred to me. But let's say, for example, everything is all set. The spirit is going to incarnate. It has chosen mother and father, and mother and father are together now, and everything is going well. And then at a certain point, the mother to be, okay, before pregnancy, the mother to be becomes a drug addict or an alcoholic woman, for example. And then she gets pregnant, but she will not, or she can no longer back out of the addiction. So she will, through pregnancy, continue to be an alcoholic mother now, or a drug addict. And the fetus, the embryo, is in there developing. And the spirit, who is already attached to that, can say, this is not what I need. This is not what I planned my incarnation for. I need something different. Unfortunately, this thing happened, and this is not going to benefit me anything on this life. And he backs out. It disconnects the fluidic tie. It's a possibility. Another thing that Spirit André Luis makes very, very, very clear to us is once pregnancy starts, so after the conception, there's going to be a approximate 9 months of development. Let's just put it this way. During that time, negative thoughts, bad thoughts, produced by the mother, can poison the breast milk, which can compromise the organic stability of the body inside the womb and kind of, make the incarnating spirit lose its balance, per se. Remember, the fluidic tie is very thin and fragile during the early days of pregnancy. During pregnancy in general, but in the very beginning, it's even worse. So it's, anything that goes wrong, yes, the fluidic tie can be disconnected, can disconnect. Now, why am I saying that negative thoughts produced by the mother can poison the breast milk? We already spoke about this when we spoke a few weeks ago about ectoplasm, which we were going to bring back in a few weeks. We're going to bring this subject back, ectoplasm. So we explain that negative thoughts will be inside every single cell of the mother, which now includes the fetus, the embryo, and so. Also, fights and conflicts in the family, in the home environment, they can aggravate, they can produce these negative thoughts, which, like I said, they will impact and affect the incarnating spirit. And he can at one point just say, it's not going to work for me. I'm backing out, I'm walking away. So a lot of the miscarriages are I would say, a little difficult for science to pinpoint and say this is exactly what happened. Tum, 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 tum. Sometimes you just don't know. There's nothing wrong. You take all the tests and all the possible things that conventional medicine can do, and they look at all the exams, all the results, and they say, we don't know because this is not physical. Here's another and last idea for premature death. It's called, or I'm going to call, the recovery of the perispirit. When the spirit in a previous life, when the incarnating spirit, incarnating in this life, when the incarnating in this life, on a previous life, was a bad spirit and concentrated in being in, producing evil. Let me do a parenthesis here. If you see a person, we might know or we might heard of, if you know a person that does evil all the time, that's all they do. They cannot do a little bit of evil and then, do nice things and then a little bit. No, they they have a tendency to get worse and worse and worse. I'm talking not a regular person, somebody who is really, really, really an evil person, as we say. Usually they require medication, treatment. That's how science sees. But they have this mono idea. That's all they have in their mind of, for example, I want to kill that particular person. And that's what they live for. That's what they live for. So they will live, let's just say 70 years trying to kill somebody, to find and kill somebody, because 50 years ago something happened and, I want that person that, and I'm going to spend my entire life, put all my energy into this. That's called monoideism. It's mono, one, ideism from idea. So this spirit, talking about a previous life, had this idea, that had the single idea of killing somebody or revenge or whatever it is. You see, all the amount of bad thoughts and bad energy that's being put into the perispirit, its own perispirit, damages the organs of the spiritual body. It will make the organs atrophy because they're not being used, because the spirit has only one thing in mind. That's the mono idea. That's all he thinks. So nothing else is necessary. Just that. So the organs of the spiritual body atrophy. And it will generate what we call ovoid body. Ovoid, like egg, a small egg. So the perispirit loses its shape, its form. It gets all damaged, destroyed. That's a better word. So the spirit destroys its own perispirit because of this monoideism, this fixed idea of doing this one bad thing and only that one bad thing. In order to go back to a regular reincarnation with a physical body like ours and so and so, the perispirit must be recomposed prior to that. One way to recompose the perispirit is the spirit to pick a mother and a father that will, generate a new egg, a new cell, and the fluidic type from that spirit will attach to that matter, and that spirit will start controlling that to create a new body. And André Luiz goes further and he says to create a new physical, psycho, mind, somatic, physical body. So it will create a new physio-psychosomatic body after the conception. Once the spirit is able to uh, uh, recompose its perispirit to the point that from now on incarnations could be, could produce regular bodies, that was all that was necessary on that life. That's it. Life over, because now the spirit has a mind that walked away from the mono ideas and was able to produce a perispirit with a form. Now the spirit is going to start, meaning is going to stop, meaning it's going to die, discarnate, and go back to errant state to organize a new upcoming life, a new upcoming incarnation. So these are 5 of the possibilities that Spiritism teaches us. There are more, but we are throwing ideas so we can, you and I, myself included, so we can always have all these things in mind that we can't go against the laws of God because we pay for it, and it's not fun. It's pain and suffering. So the laws of God, the laws of nature, do not respond to our demands. So whatever demands we made in the past, whatever rebellion and revolt we did in the past, they come back to us. One of the forms is this: having to face premature death of our kids, or be the one suffering the premature death. Revolt, Spirit Emmanuel tells us, revolt is a synonym of incomprehension. So don't revolt. Stop. There's something that's not being understood. Stop. Stop the revolt. So what am I not understanding? Let's seek the answer. How do we find the answer? Seeking knowledge. Where's that knowledge? That's what Spiritism is for. It's a new philosophy that brings all the answers for all these things. So, premature death. It could be, the reason for that could be several. We gave you, or we brought here, 5 of these reasons. This information is in the Spirit's book and Literature from Spirit, Andre Luiz. It's a much deeper subject than the 30 minutes that we use here, but I wanted to bring it over to you so you can, just think about, read, study, just like I do. So thank you very much for being with us tonight. Don't forget, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be here again for Spiritism, a closer look on Kardec Radio. Thank you very much. Be well.